Former US President Donald Trump could be facing 10 years in jail for allegedly holding on to classified documents after he left the White House.
His indictment as a former president is unprecedented in American history. This is the second criminal case against Trump, who's going on trial next year over a hush money payment he allegedly made to an adult film star.
Well, let's talk to our correspondent, John Terrace in New York. So, John, how has Trump responded to this?
Well, this story is breaking all the time here, and you're right, it is unprecedented in American history. Never before has a former president been indicted by the federal authorities, which has happened now. And this is indeed the second time the president has been indicted in the last handful of weeks. This is a magnitude more serious, though, than the one from a couple of weeks ago, which was by Alvin Bragg, who is the Manhattan District Attorney. And that is to do with business fraud at the Trump Organization. This is far, far more serious. These are federal charges, and nobody in America wants to be charged by the federal authorities, and the numbers speak for themselves, because of federal charges brought against people, 90% of them end up as guilty pleas, and of the 10% that do go to court, 90% again end up as convictions. So President Trump has an awful lot on his plate at this time. Now, he heard about this yesterday evening at about 7 p.m. local time. He was at Bedminster, which is his championship golf course in New Jersey. It's about 50 kilometers away from where I'm standing at the moment, and indeed at the moment he is out with friends playing golf on that same course. Now, according to the New York Times, the call from the lawyers came at 7 p.m. By 7:20 they'd issued a statement, and within the hour they'd put out a request for money, a fundraising email among his millions of supporters around the country. And I think that part is worth noting and filing away and keeping for another day. Now, everything we know about this does not come from the Department of Justice, who are not saying anything. It all comes from Trump himself and Trump's lawyers, and the breaking news here is that two of them, including Jim Trusty, who is a very senior lawyer within the Trump Organization and a regular spokesperson on behalf of President Trump, has stood down. So that's breaking news only in the last couple of minutes. Now, before Jim Trusty stood down, he said that there were 7 counts against the former president, including conspiracy, obstruction, an infringement of the Espionage Act, destruction of documents, and false reporting. And I can tell you that this doesn't apply to the fact that he had these classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, which is his Florida home. It's more to do with the fact that he hung on to them after he was asked by the authorities to give them back. Now, you know, President Biden and other leading politicians in America have been found with these classified documents on their premises as well. But for some reason that nobody knows, when they were asked to give them back, the Trump people at Mar-a-Lago basically put up a fight and argued against it. And that is the bedrock of these charges that we're hearing about today. Trump says, "I'm an innocent man. It's a dark day for the U.S." And he accuses the Biden administration of election interference at the very highest level. If he is found guilty, there is jail time attached to these alleged crimes. It will only take one member of the jury to decide that it's political, though, and he'll be off scot-free. And I do have to say, I don't think he will ever end up serving jail time, even though he could. I can't imagine the American people will allow a former president, even President Trump, as controversial as he is, to actually go to jail. And if he is convicted, they're going to appeal this, and it's likely to go all the way to the Supreme Court in the United States. So this is likely potentially to go on well beyond the presidential election next year.
So we're just at the stage of the indictment. What happens now?
All eyes on Miami. Now, as you know, President Trump used to live in New York City, where I am, and then he got very fed up with the city and moved to Miami. He lives in Mar-a-Lago. And on Tuesday, at 19 hours GMT, he has said publicly that he will appear in court, at federal court in Miami. Now, according to his lawyers, he's not going to be arrested. And according to his lawyers, he's not going to have a mugshot. though that mugshot might be very useful in raising money for his presidential campaign, which goes on. We'll have to see. Of course, there was no mugshot when he appeared in New York a couple of weeks ago, but there were photographers in the court, and that amounted, really, in many ways, to a mugshot. So now there's a huge security operation. Mar-a-Lago is about an hour and 15 minutes by road from the court in Miami. They're trying to work out how to get him there in and out safely. They don't know whether there will be any protests or any violence. They thought there would be in New York. In the end, there wasn't. And I do think it's worth pointing out just briefly as well that the Department of Justice, which is not commenting, really would have preferred to have this trial in Washington, D.C., where President Trump only polled about 5% in the last election. They've been forced to have it in Miami because that's where the alleged crimes took place in Florida. He's very popular in Florida. I think he won Florida, even though President Biden won the election overall last time round. And so his best shot of getting off will be, if this trial, if it ever takes place at all, if it takes place in Miami.
John, thank you very much. That's our correspondent, John Terrett in New York.